So guys, we're here with Dawn Davies, the buying director for the Whisky Exchange. Dawn, thank you so much for taking some time with us here today. It's day 3 here at the Whisky Show. The last 2 days, I have sampled some amazing liquid from these phenomenal brands. As the buying director, what goes into selecting the different liquids and brands that you work with?
So for me, first and foremost, it's taste. If it doesn't taste good,
It's not.
I'm not listing it.
Right.
And because I think at the end of the day, you have to stand behind every product that you have.
Yes.
And of course, you have products that maybe you wouldn't drink yourself because, you have to appeal to all different palates.
For sure.
We're not, if I was just buying for myself, I'd probably have about 12 whiskeys. No,
Okay.
I'm joking people. But, I think it's all about, then of course you've got to think about what it looks like. Is the packaging good? Because it's on a website. So, yes, we do have 3 retail spaces, but the website's the main driver. So you've got to have things that are going to appeal to people from a visual perspective as well. So, for me, it's taste all the way. We taste pretty much, I would say, 99% of the products that go online.
Phenomenal.
Old and Rare is really the only exception, and some indie bottlers. But yeah, no, we're really passionate about the actual quality of the product that we have online. We're not collectors. We're actually buyers, and we're really testing every single product we get.
That's great to hear. And out of interest, is there much difference between what you have here at the show versus what you stock online?
I have over 15,000 products online.
Right?
Here, I think we have about 1,000 plus strands.
It's a pretty good showcase of what
really
you've
good
got.
showcase.
I mean, to fit it all into one building, it's not easy,
Yeah,
right?
and every year I'm like, David, can we find a bit more space for people? So, what we do is we have the guys, so every time we're trying to find new people to come into the show because, it's really good for the customers to have a little bit of diversity. But,
Yep.
of course, we have our main key brands that we love that come back year on year. And they're huge supporters, and we really, really appreciate them. So, it's a little bit of kind of, okay, everyone that's sort of regular comes, and then we try and put some sort of small niche brands in as well. So hence why we have our stand to kind of get some of the smaller guys on as well.
Fantastic.
This is important, and it's an expensive show. So, we want the little guy to be represented as much as the big boys.
That's really wonderful to hear, you guys giving everybody in the industry a bit of a hand up. And this is the thing, with the Whisky Exchange, it is one of the biggest retailers. So it's really wonderful that you are here not only to help the big brands, but showcase everybody.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think whiskey is such an inclusive spirit, and it's so important to help the smaller guys as much as it is to support the big boys, because the big boys have the marketing budgets and all that, but the little guys actually, they've got so much passion and care that goes into their product that it's so important that we are there to support them and help showcase them.
They're the ones coming up, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, fantastic. So Dawn, you are one of the most notable buyers in the industry. I know you're laughing, but you definitely are. How did you work your way to this coveted position that you're in?
Do you know what? I've been one of the luckiest people in the world. I think, yes, I work super hard. For me, it's about passion, it's about hard work. I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, I want to be a buyer. They don't realize you've got to start at the bottom and work your way up. So I started in restaurants. I was a sommelier.
Wow.
So I was head sommelier of Zuma, Boxwood. Then I went to the Square, and then I headed up and ran the Libri when it opened with Brett Graham, which is probably my favorite restaurant.
Okay.
And then, super luckily, one of my customers was actually a guy called Ewan Venters, and he became the sort of the food director for Selfridges.
Okay.
And he always used to say to me, Dawn, I'm going to employ you one day. And he called me out of the blue and was like, Dawn, I'd like you to come work at Selfridges. And I was like, I don't really want to work in a shop, I like restaurants. But I went and had a chat with him because, he's a customer, so you've got to be a bit, polite.
Right.
And he was talking away to me. I wasn't really even paying attention. And he goes, would you like to be the head buyer for Selfridges? And I was like, the what? And so I became head buyer of Selfridges. It was when I started getting into spirits.
Okay.
And I was so lucky. Sakinda has been a huge supporter of mine from day one at Selfridges, and so has Dave Brum. And Sakinda and I always talked about doing something together, and we had all these crazy ass projects because that's me and Sakinda. And then after 9 years at Selfridges, I was kind of like looking for a change. And Sakinda came to me and said, Sakinda and Raj came and said, do you want to work for us? Do you want to be head buyer? And I was like, yes, thank you.
Obviously.
Obviously. So yeah, I have been very lucky. I think I've been really supported by some incredible people in the industry who have, really helped me progress, and I owe it all to them. But you know what? You've got to work hard, you've got to be passionate, and you've just got to, really love what you're doing, and I do.
And it really comes through. Everything that you do online, everything we see from you, all of the products here, it really does come through. Out of interest, does the foundation that you have as a sommelier within the wine industry, that's presumably a big, big part that's helped you along your way within whiskey, right?
Do you know what? I think when you're a taster, you're a taster. And it doesn't matter if you're tasting wine or spirits. And it's quite interesting. One of my wine suppliers who I've worked with, oh my goodness, 25 years, I think, came to me the other day and was like, Dawn, you're a better taster now that you're doing spirits.
Right.
And he said my palate's really, really sort of gone to the next level because I think it's because, you're trying so many different flavors that you have so many different reference points.
Yes.
So I think for me it's been, of course it helps. And it's funny because I've done my Master of Wine and I was like, I basically passed my Master of Wine and then started to become the whiskey buyer for the Whisky Exchange. And I was like, wine, now whiskey, just passed my MW. It's taken years to get it. And I was like, I'm never going to use it again. But actually, up to kind of distillation, and then after distillation, there's not that much difference.
Right.
So it's really helped me from probably a theoretical point of view as well, because actually, it's all making alcohol. It's just in slightly different ways and with slightly different products.
Lots of crossover.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And with such an expansive palette and the position that you're in as well, what trends are you seeing in the industry at the moment?
Do you know what? It's really, really interesting right now. I think, it's really tough out there. I think a lot of people don't have money. We know that. The climate isn't great. And I think whiskey prices, especially Scotch, has been going north.
Yep.
I think the brands have really not been forward thinking. I think they've been chasing China.
Okay.
And China's market is pretty flat now.
Locked up, right?
And so I think people are kind of like, going back to core products. They wanted something that's comforting, something they know. But also the amount of whiskey we're now seeing in the world and in different countries. People are really experimental, and it's such great to see. And I think part of that is coming from COVID, because people, had nothing to do, or they were stuck at home, so they were listening to podcasts, they were listening to blogs, reading blogs, things like that. And I think that's really made people very curious.
Okay.
And that means also, I think, that they are more willing to experiment than they ever have been. And for me, that's amazing, because it means I can buy incredible products. Like, I just brought a Korean whiskey on,
Right.
literally.
Yes.
A month ago.
Right.
And, people are going mad for it. They love it. They're really willing to experiment. And we brought the first Chinese whiskey over. And, it's great to see people just going out there and tasting all different whiskeys from all over the world. So I'm really seeing a trend towards kind of world whiskey, I guess we could put it.
And people being better educated.
People being better educated, but also people kind of going back to those kind of core products. I think they're over cask number 999, batch 2001.
Okay.
They want to go back and just have good liquids.
Yes.
And I think that's really, really starting to show in what people are buying from us.
Fascinating. That's really, really interesting. Okay. Dawn, a big focus of the Whisky Exchange this year is your campaign, We Are Whisky. And I think it's a phenomenal thing that you're all doing here. And the whisky industry as a whole, we're all working towards it together, right? There's a lot of positive changes that are happening. Still more that needs to happen, but I like to look at the positives, at the progress that we've made as opposed to the negatives. Given your influential position, but also the experiences that you've had over the years you've been in the industry, what do you think needs to happen for more people to feel welcome in this space?
You know what, I think a lot of it is, as you say, we've got to come at this in a collaborative way, in a positive way, because the more we're negative about this isn't right or this hasn't been done or whatever, the more you're going to put people off, because they're going to be worried that they can't step into that space. So the whole thing with We Are Whisky was that we wanted people to understand that everyone has a story. Everyone starts somewhere. I hadn't got a clue what I was doing when I started, working with spirits. But, everyone's got to start somewhere. And I think, shows like this, yes, they're daunting. So we decided next year, 2025, we're going to do a new show. It's going to be called Welcome to Whisky.
Okay.
And it's literally nothing over £100. It's all going to be super simple brands. It's going to be talking about whiskey in a very sort of open and very, just welcoming way.
Okay,
and
making it more accessible.
Making it more accessible, because I think, you walk into this incredible space and it can be daunting.
For sure.
It's so big, there's so much. So,
Even for somebody like myself, it's like, where to begin, right? You know, absolutely.
So, for us, that was a really important part of it. Welcome to Whisky was a really important part of saying, you know what, there are so many different faces and so many incredible people in our industry. And, I don't think I've never had a problem with anyone. And they've always been super welcoming to me, and they've always helped me learn and develop and progress. And those are the stories that we need to be kind of going out there with. Yes, we definitely have to address balance and equality and diversity and inclusivity. Of course, every industry does. It's not just our industry. But if we don't do it in a positive, welcoming way, we are doing the reverse of what we've set out to do.
Yes.
And for me, I'm a woman in the industry. When I started in this industry 25 years ago, there was 5 female sommeliers, and I was one of them.
Wow.
And, it's so different now. There's so many female sommeliers. There are so many more women in this show today.
Yeah.
I was walking around yesterday and I was like, oh my goodness, there's different colors, different creeds, different genders, different, everything. And I'm so positive about that because it has changed. I mean, the first whiskey show I went to, I think I was the only woman. And that's changed.
Yeah.
And that's because we've been doing so much work. We have a safe space here at the Whisky Exchange and at the Whisky Show for people. If anyone misbehaves, they're out that door in 3 minutes and they don't come back.
And
in.
I have seen that in action this weekend. It's phenomenal how tightly locked down this is. It really, and not in an aggressive way, in a professional, and clean-cut manner where everybody should feel safe and welcome. And I've seen it in action, and kudos to you and your team. You're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank
I
you.
think what you've highlighted there, to me, what's really important is, it is important to highlight issues and deal with those issues. But let's focus on the positives as well, and focus on those positives and bring those back. Because like you
100%.
say, if we're focusing on the negatives, it will breed that negativity. If we're focusing on the positives, we can continue that positive change.
And I want more people of every different creed, color, whatever, because the more people drinking whiskey, the more I'm going to sell.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's it. This is a welcoming industry. I have never not been welcomed. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't be in this industry.
For sure.
And I'm a woman.
It's wonderful to hear you say that. That's great. Really, really good. Dawn, last question for you. Looking forward into the future of whiskey, what are you most excited about?
I'm a flavor junkie.
Okay.
I love flavor. I went to this botanical gardens one time, and every time the guy said, you could use that in cooking or you could eat it, I'm literally tasting everything. He's like, you're going to die one day because you're going to just eat something.
You shouldn't. Yeah.
Because I want to know flavor, and I think what's really exciting in the whiskey industry is these small guys, people like Dornoch, Wireworks, Holyrood, Leaf. They're going back to the building blocks of flavor, and that's the barley they're using, that's the yeast, that's the fermentation time. And it's not all about the cask. We did a masterclass yesterday, Serge, Sakinda, myself, and Dave Brum. And one of the things we were talking about was actually so many people have just been focused, sherry cask. Some of these new guys are coming through, and the liquor's beautiful that they're creating because they're focusing on flavor first, marketing second.
Right.
You know what? That's what it should be about. It should be about the flavor. And even tasting Glengoyne White Oak. Why is more Glengoyne not in
Absolutely,
bourbon?
right? Absolutely.
So delicious.
Completely the opposite
rid of
style
that
you
sherry
expect
stuff.
from Glengoyne, but it's so wonderful. Absolutely.
And I think that's it. I think we're going to see more and more people focusing on that yeast, focusing on the fermentation time. I went to Port Ellen the other day, got the cut points, but then they had this mill. And I was like, everyone's like, 10 different cut points. I'm like, look at the mill. And the guy was laughing so hard because he was like, I've never seen someone get so excited over a mill. Because I was like asking him, and he was like, I can change flavor just by how I'm milling.
Yeah.
And I've never thought about that. And
For
I
sure.
think all of these things that distilleries are doing and people are doing, and the amount of distilleries out there, I'm buying Danish whiskey, I'm buying Korean whiskey, I'm buying Kiwi whiskey. There's so much to look forward to in our industry. We are in a very exciting time, a challenging time, but an exciting time. And I cannot wait for the next 20 plus years.
Your passion is infectious. I'm so excited to see what you do over the next 20 plus years here at the Whisky Exchange and beyond. Dawn Davies, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, please make sure you check out the We Are Whisky campaign with the Whisky Exchange. Dawn, enjoy the show today. We'll see you shortly.
You too.
Thank you.